What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Today, we're doing a What's Next for Peacemaker. Will this be the next great series that will make DC rise up from the ashes of their terrible dumpster fire that has been all of their live-action series? Or is it just going to be another DC live-action failure? We're going to tell you what we think in this episode, as well as what we think is coming up next.
And before we begin, we will be talking about the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker and all of the spoilers there within. So if you haven't seen those, go watch them now and come back and finish our video.
With James Gunn in charge of this show, and they dropped the first 3 episodes, and I wasn't expecting much, and it didn't matter. It was incredible. It's hilarious. It's not like DC, but at the same time it is. It's funny, which is not like DC, but then it shows the human side of the superhero, and it's got gore, which is DC. It is kind of dark with a theme, but Keith, what do you think?
I'm loving it. I mean, James Gunn is one of my favorite directors, writers, everything that he does. And this, you're absolutely right. He's taken the human side of some of these characters, and we're seeing it play out. We got threads with who is, Hardcore's father. We have that Peacemaker trying to live up to what his dad thinks he should be, even though I think he's going to be in for a very rude awakening when he finds out who his dad really is. So, so much going on. We got a Batmite reference.
I'd rather be with fucking Batmite than you.
Who's Batmite?
The 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman.
Which is now he's officially canon in the DCEU, so I can't wait to see that show. And just, everything about what he's done with this character who no one cared about prior to this and making everyone love, and also making me enjoy John Cena. I've never been the biggest fan of John Cena, and James Gunn just brings out the best in him. It's been great.
Come on, Keith. I'm sure you've enjoyed John Cena in different ways.
I have not.
And I guess this is from 50 Cent's video. And he's like, you won't do it on TV. Of course I'll do it on TV. But instead of doing this, I did this. And now, for 15 years, because of a dare, I've been doing this.
I was honestly feeling the same exact way as Dave. I went into the show thinking, well, maybe it'll be good. Maybe it's gonna, blow either way. It might be enjoyable. But I tell you what, you can tell this is a James Gunn production because it's got a lot of the things that make Guardians of the Galaxy really good, along with it's just got his style. It's got a lot of the things that we noticed when we were talking about the Suicide Squad that he produced. It had a lot of the music actually used correctly, which made it a lot of fun. It has an amazing opening sequence that the 3 of us have not been able to get enough of. We've actually watched it and listened to it quite a bit. And like what Keith mentioned with the Batmite character, that is the kind of thing that James Gunn is known for, digging deep into comic book lore and reaching down and finding these obscure characters and putting a spotlight on them. He's not doing what a lot of your average DC live action movie directors or writers, producers would do. He's not reading 1 or 2 famous comics from that character, a la, Batman, The Dark Knight Returns or something like that, and then making some bare bones basic movie. No, he's reading a lot of the books that, comprise this character's entire history. James Gunn even was quoted as saying that he went back and he was reading Peacemaker on his original run prior to being a part of DC, when he was part of Charlton Comics. So that tells me that he's got real love for these characters that he puts in movies and in live action TV shows. And as long as he keeps doing stuff like that, it's going to keep making it fun.
Yeah, and I saw James Gunn in an interview saying that, the bigger characters don't interest him. Everybody knows Superman. Everybody knows the Batman and their powers. He's more interested in Peacemaker and Batmite. And, the characters that he can really explore their special skill sets. So I respect that. He's bringing the more obscure into the mainstream. And so far, it's been awesome.
And while we are talking of the obscure, let's talk about the choice of villain in here. the White Dragon. I mean, that was brought, that was created way back, way before the Suicide Squad was even a comic. So it's nice to see him brought in. And I love the fact that he made him Peacemaker's dad. It's going to add that bridge to get over for, Peacemaker, that he's going to have to deal with his dad being a supervillain and not the guy he's looked up to for all these years. He brings these obscure villains, and like Dave says, he can mold them into be what he wants them to be. He's not really held by 50 years of, 10 comics a year. He kind of builds them to be his own thing. And I cannot wait to see where the White Dragon and Peacemaker and everybody heads to, and Vigilante.
So that being a brief history of these characters, what's next for them?
I'm sorry, Dave, did you just ask what's next? Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because that just so happens to be the title of this show. And here's what I think is next with this series. We've got a lot of questions that have come up in watching this. Like, we don't know exactly what the deal is with these butterflies. From just a little bit of brief digging, we can't seem to find any reference to these creatures yet in DC Comics, so we're not entirely sure if this is a creation in and of itself of James Gunn, or if this is, again, going back to what we were saying before, how he likes to dig deep into comic book lore. We don't know if this is something from, some obscure comic book that 3 people in the world have read. But I think what's coming up next with these particular creatures is, we saw at the end of episode 3 that map light up with all of those red dots pointing out around the world where all of these butterfly creatures were. And I think with the discovery of that spacecraft that Peacemaker found in that metahuman's apartment, I think that's implying that there are a ton of these things that have all invaded Earth. Now, here's my specific prediction. I don't think they've all found their way into humans. And that's kind of what we were talking about when we were kind of discussing what we think these are. We said that we believe they're kind of possessing human beings. So the way that they appeared as a butterfly, we'll show you, an image or a video or whatever of it. The way that they appear as a butterfly, we think what they're doing is they're kind of like being body snatcher style aliens going into humans or something like that. So I don't think they all have. I think some of them are still either in their spacecraft, or they're still wandering around trying to find a host. Who knows if they've all found a place with human civilization. But more specifically, I think what we're going to have to watch out for is the type of humans that they happen to possess. So we've already seen that they have no issue mentioning metahumans in this show. I think the real problem is going to be if these butterfly aliens happen to get inside metahumans that we're going to end up seeing in upcoming episodes. And we're going to have to see Peacemaker, who is a very human character, does not have superpowers, save for maybe one of his helmets or something, have to go up against some sort of superpowered alien creature.
I was also thinking about these butterflies, that this is an opportunity here in my mind, that maybe they got something bigger brewing over at Warner Brothers, which is hard to believe. But anyway, this could be like a new symptom of a big bad for their universe, which they can use to encompass the whole universe. It could be the first wave of some villain, or they could be the villain. I don't know. I think James Gunn is smart enough to pull something like that off, but then there's the rest of the DC universe. So I don't know. I think it'd be genius if they planted the seed right here and it just grew from there. But, that's my what's next.
See, I do think that the butterflies could be used further on down the line, because I think the reason they are a part of this story right now is because they are, I don't want to say working with, I think they're using Agee Smith, the White Dragon, because I still remember when they went into that special little place and he had all of that technology for Peacemaker. My first thought was like, why does he have all that? How did he get all that? And then I kept thinking, as we get introduced to this new sort of alien species, they could be working with him, promising him, hey, we're going to bring about, the Fourth Reich. You and your Nazi friends are going to take over. You're going to take over the United States. You're going to do all this. And that's where this team has gotten together. They got some wind that they were helping, take back the United States or something for these Nazis. But I think their plan is bigger. They're using Augie Smith. They're using the White Dragon and all of his followers to kind of get in. And that's where they're kind of being able to possess humans, ratatouille them a little bit for their own, purposes. But I think we're going to find at the end, he was used. White Dragon is going to be sort of the big bad of this show, because he's Peacemaker's dad. Peacemaker has to come to grips with his dad is a bad person. That doesn't make him a bad person. And he's going to have to deal with that, leaving the butterflies to be dealt with down the line. And I agree with Dave. If they are setting up something that could be used in multiple projects for DC down the line, that would be amazing.
I agree, Keith. I think that would be really amazing if they ended up doing that. And yeah, I could totally see White Dragon being kind of the big bad of this series. Even more so maybe than the butterflies. Who knows? It could be either way. But yeah, I agree with that. Now, I have a question for the two of you. Where do you think Peacemaker lies in sort of the overall DC universe-ish? I don't know. It's kind of a mess right now. We know that it ties in directly into, or rather is a sequel of, the Suicide Squad. And as far as we know, the Suicide Squad is somewhat tangentially related to the previous Suicide Squad movie and also to Birds of Prey, I think. And it's hard to tell, but they name drop a lot of these other characters. So do you think this is in the same DC universe as, for instance, Shazam or Aquaman, or do you think it's totally separate?
First of all, Birds of what? I remember some terrible movie, so it had to do with birds and a Harley or something. It was just terrible. It has nothing to do with reality, or they shouldn't make it canon for that universe. It was just a horrible movie. I think it was worse than like the other movies.
I do think it's part of that bigger DCEU, because they did make reference to, Rick Flag and Harley being in the first Suicide Squad, and they're playing it in. But remember, we've got The Flash coming this November, which I think is going to totally change the entire DCEU. So Peacemaker will still be a part of it, maybe the Suicide Squad a little bit, but we're going to see new, unfortunately, probably a new Superman. We know that Ben Affleck has said he's not returning as Batman after The Flash. So things are going to change pretty drastically. But I think this little corner of that universe is going to stay the same and keep chugging along.
Well, Keith, I think that's actually really great news, because, that tells me that finally, with Flashpoint on its way, Wonder Woman 84 will be gone.
All that being said about the DCEU and the plot lines, what about the characters? Do you see any characters that might be what's next?
Well, obviously, Dave, we're going to see Aquaman. We're going to see Batman. We're going to see Superman. You know what? We're just going to, the whole Justice League, they're all going to be there. Guaranteed 100%, not your status quo, always correct.
I do have it on good authority that Jason Momoa makes a post-credit scene in the final episode saying, he said I did what to fish? I do think we might see some more people of the Suicide Squad. Bloodsport maybe showing up. You never know. I don't know what circumstances he would show up in. Obviously, Polka Dot Man and a few of the others are not going to show up. Maybe we see King Shark or something. I don't know. I think James Gunn has enough pull at DC right now and able to do whatever he wants, that we may see some, crazy, obscure villain, like at the end, after they take care of the White Dragon, we see the Condiment King, or some crazy, bizarre villain show up and they're like, okay, let's get on it. But I honestly think he has enough pull that we could see anybody. And I can't wait to see how this all turns out and who might show up.
Actually, that's a great idea. And that's kind of what I was thinking as well. Probably if we are going to see anybody showing up, it's either going to be some, one-off characters from the Suicide Squad. I think it'd be great if we saw the Weasel. Minus the child murders and everything. But maybe have Eagly swoop down, drop the Weasel off or something, or, just some of these other more obscure characters, because I think that's the sort of arena that James Gunn plays best in, is when he's dealing with these like really random unknown characters rather than like the big names.
You know, guys, I came into this video thinking, man, I'm gonna have a lot of reeling in to do. But really, I don't think I can reel in this because it's such a wide open area that James Gunn takes it to. It's not just him, but it's just the characters that he likes to bring to life. And nobody knows anything about them. So it's hard to reel anything back in when there's no reality to base it on.
So now that we've seen the first 3 episodes, and I don't know about you guys, I mean, I enjoyed it quite a bit. What would you give it as the series so far? What kind of rating would you put on this at the moment?
As the first 3 episodes of an 8-episode series arc, I think it's been incredible. They did a great job of establishing who the villains are, what's going on, why they need to do this. They brought in Vigilante as like a side character to kind of help out. And it's been wonderful. I think all of the jokes have hit. I think all of the acting has been incredible. I think the storytelling has taken us to a few places where we could do a video like What's Next, because it's leading somewhere and we just don't know where yet. So I think it has been incredible. Now, we haven't seen the whole thing, so I'm not going to give it, a 10 out of 10, but I think it's leaning closer to that. But I'm going to give it like a 9.5 out of 10 right now, because first 3 episodes have been incredible, making me, not wait until next Thursday to see what's going to happen.
Well, as far as a scale goes, I've had my scale adjusted to the Doug scale, where I used to say that 7 was like average, and then we've talked about it, and 5 would be average. So that way you got a little more breathing room. That being said, I'm going to give it an 8. I don't want to judge it too early, but I have been thoroughly entertained by the story and all the acting and the action, and even the gore. And Keith's right about all the jokes landing, and the plot seems to make sense. So far, yeah, I can't wait until Thursday. I can't wait until the new one comes out. It's been great. I was hoping to watch more. I'd love to binge this show when it's over. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Dave, I think I have to agree with you. I also want to utilize the Doug scale. I don't know why, just something about it just feels right. In this area where a heart and or soul would have existed. But yeah, I would also want to definitely rate it an 8 out of 10. And a lot of it is for this very similar reasons. I've enjoyed the series so far. Yeah, I don't want to give it an overall. We'll probably revisit it at, the final episode. But right now, these first 3 episodes, I can't wait for more. And I'm kind of like with Dave, I would love to binge it. I think that'd be great. I watched all 3 episodes, that had dropped in one sitting, because the first episode ended and it was like right onto the second. I'm like, yes, I need to know what happens next. The second ended. I need to know what happens next. Like, it was total, like they had me hooked. It was really good. And I think one of the things that I appreciated the most out of it, other than just the great display of their utilization of storytelling, character building, and action, was the fact that it felt really grounded. Like how Keith had mentioned before, that it was difficult to sort of find something that you enjoy seeing John Cena in. I agree. I really liked seeing John Cena in this, and I really liked seeing him portrayed as a very human character. When he was in episode 2, jumping off of those balconies and landing hard on his previous injury that he had sustained from the Suicide Squad, like, I winced when I saw that on the screen. I was just like, oh, wow, that felt good. That felt real. That felt grounded. And I appreciated that. So yeah, definitely that's an easy 8 out of 10 right now. And I have a feeling overall, if it keeps going this direction, I think once the series is over with, once this first season is over with, I could probably easily see myself rating it either staying the same or rating it higher.
And any show that references Faster Pussycat's first album deserves an 8.
Speaking of albums and Peacemaker jumping from balcony to balcony to get away, throwing the bag full of CDs and records in, how did they not break? That's the only thing I found wrong with this entire show. At first, I was like, wait, how did his dad get all this tech? But then they kind of explain it. Those records staying unbroken, I mean, no, couldn't have happened. Sorry, plot hole. I'm changing mine. I'm giving it a 2. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought that was odd that he was throwing them from balcony to balcony. We didn't hear him smashing, and he was playing one later. There's no way that vinyl survived that thrashing.
That's what we think is next on Peacemaker. But what do you guys think? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So make sure that you go ahead and you let us know what you think is next on Peacemaker. Don't forget to add us at Twitter, and you can comment and tell us how great we are at making videos and how right we are about everything. Obviously, you know, Superman, Batman going to appear in this series. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. And we'll see you right here at next time on Not Your Status Quo.